Hey, Braves fans, thank you for listening to Braves Country Baseball. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and we are here to bring you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves, bringing you spring training and 2 to 3 games a week all season long. Please like and subscribe today. Braves Country Baseball.
Winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's the Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
We live in a world now that welcomes and nurtures the screwball in all of us. Hey, it's a new decade, people. Time to get a little nutty. Treat yourself to Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, a smooth flavor that combines 2 of America's favorites, peanut butter and American whiskey. So no more social awkwardness. Time to embrace who you truly are. Get out there and make friends. And be sure it starts with Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. It's available nearly everywhere. Learn more at screwballwhiskey.com. Infidium Spirits. Please enjoy responsibly.
Hey, sports fans, The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neal, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks, #1 sports station.
This is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Big news out of Gotham. The New York Mets signed American League Cy Young winner Justin Verlander to a 2-year, $86 million deal. Verlander will be 40 years old this year, making the Mets' 2 aces atop the rotation, a combined age of 80 on opening day. Over the weekend, Jacob deGrom left the Mets for a 5-year deal with the Texas Rangers for $185. And in case you missed it, the college football playoffs are set. The Georgia Bulldogs will essentially host the Ohio State Buckeyes in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Peach Bowl, 8 p.m. Eastern on New Year's Eve. The other semifinal game will be TCU in Michigan. That game is set for 4 p.m. Eastern and will be played out in Glendale, Arizona, also the site of this year's Super Bowl. Michigan is a 9-point favorite on the early line. The Georgia Bulldogs are 6.5. Other bowl bids in the Southeastern Conference. On December 17th, the Florida Gators at 6-6 will take on the number 14 Oregon State Beavers in Las Vegas in the Las Vegas Bowl. On Friday, December 23rd, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, Wake Forest and Missouri square off. And on Wednesday, December 28th, you got a doubleheader of SEC play. Kansas against Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl at 5:30. And at 9 o'clock, it'll be Texas Tech and Ole Miss in the Texas Bowl. Friday, December 30th, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish come to Jacksonville, Florida in the Tax Slayer Bowl to face number 19 South Carolina. That kickoff is at 3:30 Eastern. On that same night, on the 30th, the Orange Bowl will see the Tennessee Volunteers, number 6 on the land, going head-to-head with the number 7 Clemson Tigers, who won the ACC. And other games on New Year's Eve, Alabama and Kansas State, 12 Eastern. It's the All-State Sugar Bowl. And Iowa and Kentucky go head-to-head in Nashville in the Music City Bowl. The Relia Quest Bowl on January 2nd at noon Eastern will see number 22 Mississippi State against Illinois. That game is in Tampa, Florida. And in Orlando at 1 o'clock Eastern on the 2nd, number 17 LSU will try to bounce back against the 8-5 Purdue Boilermakers. Both teams were semifinalists in the SEC and Big Ten championship. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Armchair.
Why did you get so drunk?
You got drunk. I'm just really exhausted.
What's in that cup?
GAMECOCKS.
Do you have any idea how important this is? We're trying to save the pump. Really? This is what you're doing? This is what you're doing?
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
Chief, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Armchair.
YouTube Live.
Radio station. The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station?
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
You're listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We're here live weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, and simulcasting on youtube.com /at Braves Country. Your first choice for Southern sports. Hey, howdy, hi. I'm Mac McGee. I don't know much, but I know one thing. The Braves better get to getting because the Phillies and Mets are spending like it's out of control.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Good afternoon, Braves Country. We're coming to you live from the Armchair Quarterback studio and over WQEE 99.1 FM in Atlanta, as well as we are trying something new. So bear with me if everything doesn't run as smoothly as I would like it to, but we've got a new stream feed that's going on. So we're running on YouTube, we're running on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And we're trying that out and seeing how everything goes. And it seems like everything is going as well and as could be expected. And so here we go. You'll be able to put your comments in on all of these stream platforms, and Tones joins us here in a minute, but I got to get to some breaking news. It's breaking left and right. And I think a lot of people have probably already seen that Justin Verlander, if you did miss it, Justin Verlander signed a 2-year deal to join the New York Mets. And that was broken this morning. Just moments ago, Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic, which he's about as credible as they come, has broken that there is a deal in place for the Philadelphia Phillies to reunite Trey Turner and Bryce Harper. Trey Turner, they're saying it is going to be I believe they said 11-year deal for $300 million. So though they will not have Bryce Harper to start the season, they will have Trey Turner. And that offense was electric, as we know. And that's where we are at now. And so that is some big news in Braves country. It doesn't get much bigger than that. When you've got over the weekend, I'm sure most people are caught up to speed the fact that Jacob deGrom left to go to the Texas Rangers. 5 years, 185 is what that was reported. So you had deGrom leave the Mets, and then instantly right after that, just a couple of days later this morning, the Mets countered by signing Justin Verlander. So they'll have Verlander and Scherzer top of the rotation. And then, of course, they've got some work to do in free agency. They've been rumored with Tyon and a number of other pitchers. We'll see what happens there. And then the Phillies, who pretty much have their starting pitching in place. It doesn't look like that Dombrowski, the general manager, is going to go out and spend a lot of money on pitching. It seems like he's more of the belief that build the bullpen and build an incredible offense and take your chances in October. And it panned out for them this year. They didn't get the championship, but they did get to the World Series. And so this is going to be an arms race in the East now. And the Atlanta Braves, it's your turn. It is your turn, Mr. Anthopoulos. We got to get somebody in, because if we're not going to get Dansby Swanson, some of the other bigger names are going by the wayside. And it was reported this morning that evidently the Braves were in on trying to sign deGrom. So that's interesting on that point. Now it makes you wonder, will they be going after Carlos Rodon? I think that would be a great addition. If you could add Carlos Rodon, and I know he's had some health issues, but so has, well, just about every pitcher has, but so has deGrom. And for that matter, Justin Verlander is going to be 40. You're going to have two starting pitchers on opening day for the Mets at the top of their rotation. The top of the Mets rotation, the combined age for their top two aces is going to be 80 years old. So you got to put that into play. But if you could get a Rodon to piece him up with what the Braves already have, that would be an elite move, because we give you two really good lefties, obviously in Max Fried and Rodon. And then you've got all the righties, Strider and Charlie Morton, and of course Kyle Wright in his 21-win season. Now, I was a little surprised to hear that they were aggressive towards deGrom. From my understanding, why it didn't get done was it was just the years. There weren't a lot of teams that were willing to give Jacob deGrom, who's going to be 35 on opening day, a 5-year deal. And you can't blame him. If you're a general manager out there and your job's on the line, you're going to give Jacob deGrom, who is hurt a lot, and I mean a lot, you're going to give him 5 years on the back end, on the backside of 30, as that old country song went once. I just, I wish him well, and I wish the Rangers well, and I hope I'm wrong. But that feels like a disaster waiting to happen. There's a reason why Clayton Kershaw continues to sign 1-year deals with the Dodgers, because the Dodgers are willing to continue to pay him market value as long as he's healthy and ready to roll. And he's willing. Evidently, Kershaw's been really smart with his money, but he's willing to go year to year because he wants to be with the Dodgers. He doesn't want to move. Remember, at one point in the offseason, there was talk of Kershaw going back to Texas. That's where he's originally from. He might be from Texas, but he's a California kid now. He's been in that organization, 15 plus years? And the Yankees, by the way, this is coming across, they have signed Brian Cashman, their general manager, to a 4-year extension through 2026. So a lot of moving and shaking going on in the world of sports. in Major League Baseball. And then, of course, you got the NFL, you got college football. What about Deion Sanders, primetime heading to Colorado, and what that might change on the landscape? And I know a lot of people were a little shocked by Deion going to Colorado, but here's the thing that Deion might be ahead of the game, ahead of the curve with on everybody. Assuming all the Power Fives stay relatively in place and they all continue to get bids to the college football playoffs, which is expanding in 2 seasons, we only have one more Final Four to go through. And after that, it'll be a 12-team playoff. So that's already going to improve your chances. But also, what about the fact that in a couple of years, when the playoffs expand, and if Deion and Colorado continue to be in the Pac-12 and the Pac-12 stays together, they won't have Southern Cal or UCLA to deal with. It's going to be a relatively easy transition. If he can build up some athletes and get them in there to Colorado, he'll have a chance to win the Pac-12 just about every year and build his own brand there. So a lot of things moving. And then, of course, earlier, just moments ago, it broke that Anthony Richardson, the University of Florida quarterback, he has declared himself eligible for the NFL draft. So he won't be in the bowl game. And we'll see what happens there. And, of course, their backup quarterback, Kitna, he's kicked off the team because of the allegations of the child pornography. So there's a lot of things going on, and we're going to try to get to it all. Tones will be here in a few minutes, and we're going to talk some NFL. A lot of games that went on yesterday. And then you got the college football playoffs. I do want to hit you with these early lines out of Vegas. The Georgia Bulldogs are a 6.5-point favorite. Of course, that game's right here in Atlanta. And they're going to be taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes, the over-under 61.5. The Michigan Wolverines and TCU Horned Frogs, they are going to be going up against each other out in Glendale, Arizona. It'll be interesting to see if the Michigan fans go out in droves. I think the TCU fans are going to pack that place. It's a, relatively speaking, it's not that bad of a travel from TCU to Arizona. And how many Michigan fans, considering the way the economy is right now, how many Michigan fans are going to sit there and say, hey, I can only go to one game and one game only. I think I'm going to go to the championship game, assuming that they have a championship game, right? And then skip the semifinals. So that would be a very, very interesting thing as well. So we've got a lot of things to get into. And if TCU ends up with like a home field advantage out there, man, I'm really liking that line +9. TCU has one loss, and every one of their games seems to come down to the final possession. And I wouldn't count out that kid Dugan. He can absolutely play. I know they fell a yard short in overtime for the Big 12 championship, but I do think that they got it absolutely correct. No way do I think anyone should have done anything differently other than how they had the plus, where you got the Bulldogs at 1. You have number 2 is Michigan. Number 3 is TCU, and 4 is Ohio State. Because if you look at the resumes, Ohio State resume is not as impressive, though they may be a better team. They're not as impressive as TCU. The other thing is, I don't think the committee wanted to put Michigan and Ohio State head-to-head again. I think they were going to try to avoid that. And then if the two of them end up undefeated, then fair enough. Advance, then fair enough. That'll be the championship. But I don't necessarily believe in that, because I'll be honest with you. You're going to try and tell me that no one's going to be excited. And I'm not just talking about Ohio State, Michigan fans, no one's going to be excited for the game to become the game they square off in the semifinals. But I do think it would have been a disservice and unfair to Michigan because they just went into Ohio State and beat them in their house. And I think that earned them the right to not have to face Ohio State. And for many, many reasons, I think this is the way you do it. But Ohio State, Georgia, though I do believe Georgia's going to win, and I'd be willing to take Georgia minus the 6.5, that's not going to be a cakewalk, I don't believe, like it was last year when they took on Michigan. I think that Michigan team was not ready. And to be honest with you, the national title game may be the Georgia-Ohio State game. Because if Michigan beats TCU, it's going to be very hard to beat your rival, your arch rival, 2 times in about a month and a half. We've seen that before back in 96 when Florida beat Florida State in the Sugar Bowl after losing to them in the regular season. I didn't think that was fair. I didn't think it was fair when you did it with Alabama and LSU. I believe that was 2012. So that's going to be a tough go. No matter if Michigan wins, no matter what draw they get, it's going to be a tough draw because you're either going to get, in my opinion, the best football team in the land, the Georgia Bulldogs, or you're going to get your rival and you're going to have to beat them twice. Now, how sweet it will be to beat them twice, I get that. But that is not really where you want to go. And with all that being said, a busy Monday. By the way, Anthony Richardson is being projected. At this point, they are saying that Anthony Richardson is going to be the number 4 quarterback, the number 4 prospect. I don't think I buy that. I think by the time we get to the draft, I think Richardson will be 2 or 3. When you consider his size and you consider his arm strength, I realize he's very raw. But if Trey Lance can be drafted number 3 overall, the sky's the limit for Trent Richardson. There's a lot of good quarterbacks out there, and as we get closer to the draft, we'll definitely talk about all of them. But right now, we don't necessarily have that kind of time to get in there and do the deep dive on the draft. But there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that I think Anthony Richardson is more talented than, and I don't blame him one bit for leaving. I think it was a smart move on his behalf. And now, how is Billy Ball going to rebound in Gainesville? They already pretty much knew he was leaving, but then when you had the Kitna thing break, how's that going to affect recruiting? Because it's definitely put a black eye on the program. But you also open up, if you do believe in Billy Napier and his offense, it opens up an opportunity for a high school quarterback that may not have thought about going to Florida in the begin with. Right now, they're not very high up on the recruiting rankings, but we have 2 weeks from Wednesday. 2 weeks from Wednesday has really became the new signing day. I know they call it the early signing day period. You have a little less than 2 weeks to be able to sign all the players you can. Or actually, let me rephrase that. I want to say it's just a few days. I'll have to double check that. But most of your big prospects sign. And then when you get to actual National Signing Day, which is in February, it's usually a week after the Super Bowl. Sometimes it's the Wednesday just following the Super Bowl. But by then, most of the kids are in place because you don't want to wait too long and say, hey, I've decided to go to Georgia, and they don't have any scholarships left. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Tampa Tones is going to join us. We're going to be talking Monday Night Football, the Buccaneers and Saints. And then, of course, We're going to get into all the nuts and bolts of the National Football League and who is the NFC and who is the AFC favorite right now. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country. Keep it locked in here to WQEE and wherever you're seeing us on all the platforms now.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, statements coming at ya, statements coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see your practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
It's time to live, laugh, and create memories again with MSC Cruises. Join us on some of the world's most modern and innovative ships. Discover again at our new private island, Ocean Key MSC Marine Reserve, named Best New Cruise Destination. Cruise the Caribbean and Bahamas from Miami or Port Canaveral. Book now. It's free balcony upgrades and flexible booking changes. Call your travel advisor or visit msccruises.com. Restrictions apply. MSC Cruises, a world of discovery.
Hey, Braves fans, thank you for listening to Braves Country Baseball. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and we are here to bring you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves, bringing you spring training and 2 to 3 games a week all season long. Please like and subscribe today. Braves Country Baseball.
Wendy's only makes one kind of breakfast, your new favorite one. How do we do it? With fresh cracked eggs, oven-baked bacon, and flaky croissants. You know, the things your old breakfast wasn't doing. So toss that old news and its soggy eggs somewhere useful. And get to Wendy's, where the sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, bacon, egg, and Swiss croissant, and honey butter chicken biscuit. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
Limited time only. Single item at regular price. Price and participation may vary at U.S. Wendy's.
You're listening to Braves Country. Weekdays, 3 to 5 p.m. on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key. Please like and subscribe today. YouTube.com/@BravesCountry.
All right, just wash your hands before you use it. I don't get your germs.
Whoa. Washing your hands is healthy? I did it because it felt good. I have so much to learn.
Yeah, the armchair quarterback. He's kind of fun and he's kind of fat. The all-American man.
Welcome back here to Braves Country from Armchair Quarterback Studios. Coming to you live from the First Coast and all around the world right now. And joining us is Mr. Tampa Tones. He's in Tampa. He's heading to tonight's game as the Buccaneers will take on, I guess they're both under 500, so it's the Yuccaneers will take on the Aints tonight. How are you, Tones?
Good, brother. Glad to be able to join. And, yep, you can get that vibe around here. A lot of Saints fans, a lot of Bucs fans, but a lot of disappointment seemingly for both sides of the ball at this point in time. So we'll see tonight who could try and take the step in the right direction to try and capture the NFC least, which has become the NFC South.
I don't know where to start here. So much things got thrown out on the breaking news all at once, but we'll just go. I'll go ahead and pick them off one by one. First of all, Trey Turner, 11 years, $300 million heading to the Philadelphia Phillies. And off of the shadow of it just being announced this morning that Max Scherzer is going to the Mets for 2 years. What say you?
Crazy deals, and you're seeing these guys get big money. It just makes me hope one thing. The Cubs make one of these moves for the big shortstops before time runs out, because Trey Turner gets gobbled up, first domino to fall. You never know next. Dansby Swanson, Xander Bogaerts, who's going to fall. Then on the pitching side of things, that's shoring up so quick already. You had DeGrom go to Texas in the middle of the deal night that no one really talked about on Friday for all that money. And then what do the Mets do? Oh, we lose DeGrom, we'll replace him with Justin Verlander. So interesting enough there that somehow the Mets short-term wise upgrade, although, that's a lot of money for Verlander and Scherzer, in my opinion, tied up to those two guys. They're great pitchers, but at this age, can they stay healthy for all that money? That's a lot of money to tie up into veteran pitchers. But the Phillies, their lineup, that's going to be impeccable. You add Trey Turner to that. I still like the Braves in that division the most, but that division's getting hot and heavy in a hurry.
Here's the most interesting part about that. Verlander deal, if you really take it apart, remember last year when Scherzer signed, it was a 3-year deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
What this means is if this doesn't work out for Cohen and company and the Mets, they will be able to reload at the end of the 2024 season. It's not like because what I kept hearing was that Verlander wanted a 4 or 5 year deal. And all I kept thinking was, man, I hope the Mets do load up the back of the truck to go get a 40-year-old for 5 years. I mean, heck, can we lock them down for 12 years up there? And the two favorites, I'd mentioned it last week, but the two favorites were it was the Mets and the Dodgers. And I really thought that it was going to end up being the Dodgers, just because Verlander's wife, she's an actress, et cetera, et cetera. That's where I thought it was going to be. But instead, what we get is a deal where he's heading to New York, and they're going to try to make the push. And not to mention, it's very obvious Jacob deGrom did not want to be a Met, because the news came out too that after he signed with Texas, that evidently the Mets tried to contact him on Friday and he would not return their call.
Sheesh. And I'll tell you what, that's a little salty if you're a sting in the wound for a Mets fan, because you really have to wonder what happened there. Did the Mets already have this Verlander plan in place and DeGrom caught wind of that and he got salty? Or do you think it was one of those things where this relationship was just long but over when they kept giving him those 1-year big money deals and he finally got the big money he was looking for? But one of those things where if you're a Mets fan, you got to wonder what happened, where you went wrong. And if you're Verlander, I thought LA was the perfect fit. Like you said, his wife fits in out there. She's an actress, and the weather's a little better in LA than New York year round. But New York must have puffed the cheddar a little more, and Mets are really going for it.
Yeah, well, I think it's safe to say that the Mets are going to be going for it every year. I don't think Cohen, I think he's going to be much like the Yankees. I don't see him. I don't think he went out and spent all that money to buy the New York Mets to just sit on his hands.
Right.
And what it really comes down to nowadays in the National League East is you're going to have the Braves, you're going to have the Phillies, and you're going to have the Mets in an arms race every year. And the Marlins are going to try to piece together a young team from time to time and slip into the playoffs. And the Nats right now are in a full-blown rebuild. I don't believe that they will stay that way, but right now they are in a full-blown rebuild.
Yeah, and in 2 years, 3 years, they'll probably get competitive because their prospect compensation they got for guys like Juan Soto, Max Scherzer, and the likes of that has been impeccable. I will say, pretty impressive on their end to be able to get that. But when you get rid of big-time players like Trey Turner, Scherzer, and Juan Soto, you hope that some of those guys turn out. But yeah, Nationals are years away from competing. I still like the Braves the most, followed by the Phillies, then followed by the Mets. Again, Mets fans, I know you got Verlander, but when your two guys are that old and you're tied up into that much money, availability becomes key. And Mets have a great team, but that division is just too good. And that's another thing. If Verlander goes to the Dodgers, you're not really competing with too much out there. I mean, Rockies signed Chris Bryant last year. They don't have anything else. Giants are kind of on the downturn. You're not afraid of an Arizona. Here, you got all those teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And now all the attention in Braves country turns to what are the Braves going to do? Are they going to sign Dansby Swanson? Are they going to punt that? Or are they going to try to make it work with Vaughn Grissom? Now that the Phillies have signed Trey Turner, I think that helps for a return for Dansby Swanson back to Atlanta. That was the team that I was most concerned that that's where he was heading. Because I don't think Dansby wants to be in any kind of a rebuild. So he wants to go to a team that can win. So, you still got to look at the Dodgers. Could the Dodgers be in play? And he would be reunited with Freddie Freeman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they would be in play. I do think the Cubs are a player. I just don't know if at this point the Dansby Swanson in his career, he's gotten a taste of winning and what it's like. And I don't know if he wants to go backwards.
Right, and let's be honest, the only reason why the Cubs are even really a player at this point, like you said, they're a little bit of ways from competing. More so, as my pops alluded to, his wife or his girl, I should say, plays for the Chicago professional soccer women's team. So does that have a big enough pull where it attracts Dansby to Chicago? Probably not, but boy, I hope so. I love Dansby Swanson. He's my favorite shortstop on the market. I'd be happy as a clam. But as you alluded to, even if he does leave Atlanta, they have a hell of a backup plan, so nothing to be worried about.
I don't. Do they have a team here in Atlanta?
I think they do. I think that women's soccer is
sure
out
he can
there.
figure out a way to get her there. It kind of reminds me when her name's slipping my mind. The lady that sings the opening song on Sunday Night Football, Underwood. When Underwood, her husband just magically got traded to the Nashville Predators. I was like, that is not an accident. That it just randomly happened, right?
Money is power.
Exactly. So if he signs with Atlanta, they'll find a way to get her to Atlanta somehow.
Correct. I agree with you there. No argument there for me. So yeah, Cubs are looking bleak, but I love it.
Into buying the team and say let's move them here to Atlanta, whatever.
Hey, why not?
So that's your big news there. Let's get into some football. First and foremost, the college football playoffs. Do you think they got it right?
I do, and I think you alluded to this last time I was listening to you and Bobby talk on Friday, I believe, and me and my brother and Pops were talking about it a little bit myself. I think TCU is still the right play to get in over Alabama at that point in time. TCU's schedule against top 25 teams is very difficult, and let's not lie to ourselves. They already beat Kansas State once previously this year. They're a very good team. What do we tell ourselves all the time? It's near impossible in college football to beat those really good teams twice in a season. TCU is 1 yard away from pretty much doing just that. Got unlucky. So I'm really glad to see TCU still get in. Will it pan out? Will it work out? Who knows? But I think the matchups are intriguing. You got Georgia, Ohio State, that's big time, and you got Michigan against TCU, that's big time. And I'm interested to see what Dugan could do against that Michigan defense. And at the same time, I'm interested to see what two juggernauts bring to the table in Georgia, Ohio State. USC shot themselves in the foot. They had no chance after that. To me, a two-loss Bama team didn't deserve it. If a two-loss Tennessee team didn't deserve it, to me, that Bama team didn't. I think they got it perfectly right, in my honest opinion.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think that the biggest question is going to be whether Dugan can do anything against the Michigan defense. I think the biggest question is, can that TCU defense slow down Michigan? If they can slow them down, I really like that line, +9.
That's a lot of points for a playoff game. And TCU, even in their one loss this year, hung close, hung to the 1 yard line. And by the way, I'm glad they didn't get penalized and miss the playoffs for them playing so good that they had to play in a conference championship. You have teams like Ohio State, Alabama, who didn't even get their conference championship. So they got awarded for sitting out a week here. TCU played an extra game. They lost that game. I love them at +9.
Yeah, I'll tell you what my favorite play is. In fact, I've already put some action on it. Is a tease of if you do a 6-point tease, which is what I did today. And at the time I grabbed it at 9.5. So I've got TCU +15.5 and Georgia teased down to just all they got to do is win 0.5.
Wow.
And that's my favorite tease at this moment right now. The overs are a little too high for my blood right now. I gotta see if they go up or down, because I feel like if you grab the over, you're going to be, even if you tease it and you take it down to right now, there's 61.5 and 60. You're still talking about more than 8 touchdowns being scored in a game, or essentially 8 touchdowns being scored in each game.
That's a little bit much.
Yeah, and if you get a slow half, Typically, it ends up being the first half in college football, but sometimes it's the second. But if you get a slow half, you could really be behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, exactly. And that could happen easily in a playoff game, right? Defenses come to play, smash mouth football happens. Next thing you know, you get a half where it's a 10-7 type half, and you're looking around and you're like, this thing has no chance of hitting. So I think that teaser would be great. Georgia -0.5. I'd have them all day over Ohio State. And I think that TCU spread jumping up like that, I really like that teaser. And I too, myself, staying away from the over-unders at this point.
Yeah, I do too. And look, we got a long way to go before we get to those games. But some of the other interesting games, I really like that Rose Bowl. I know you're a big Penn State guy, and I think that's going to be a phenomenal matchup. Penn State, Utah.
I'm very excited for that one. I not that I love Utah, but I respect their program a lot too. So I'm very fortunate. Penn State has a fun opponent like Utah. They've been up and coming the past couple of years. It's kind of cool because Utah last year had that up and coming defense. This year they had a little bit bad luck week 1 against Florida, able to rebound, get into the Rose Bowl, win their conference championship. So and Clifford, what a better way to go out for him. He's been at Penn State forever. He put up a picture where he was like 10 years old outside of Pasadena at the Rose Bowl, and it said, like, this is my dream to play in this one day. Well, here you go, big fella. Your last college football game ever, most likely, but it's Clifford, so you never know. But it's the Rose Bowl. So I love that matchup, and to me, that's an incredible matchup, one of the best that the Big Ten and the Pac can offer, given that Ohio State and Michigan made the playoffs.
So I guess you stand corrected. Michael's chiming in. I guess he watches NWSL. Says Atlanta does not have a team. North Carolina is the closest.
So I do stand correct. Did they have, or maybe that's yeah. Never mind. I might be thinking of the.
I would not begin to bore people or try to pretend like I watch the NWSL.
Me neither.
I do watch the women's college soccer playoffs. Florida State lost a tough one the other night, but that's the extent of my knowledge with that. There's not enough time in the world to be able to watch that as well. I mean, you've got football, you've got baseball, basketball comes rolling around. I pick and choose what I call the random sports that I watch, but to be able to get locked into something like that, there is no way. All right. Right now, I believe I want to double check the line real quick. I believe that Rose Bowl, it was a 1.5 spread, and let me see if that's changed at all. Oh, it's up to 2. Utah's a 2-point favorite now.
And I know I'm a little biased here, but Penn State getting points, you gotta love them. You gotta love them. So in something like that, I mean, a lot could change from now to then in terms of the spread if some players opt out or whatnot. But right now, I'm liking Penn State early.
I'll tell you what, I've been pretty impressed by Utah, but you don't know which Utah team you're going to get. And the one that shows up against USC is pretty impressive. The one that went to Gainesville wasn't. So I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. I got to see how the line plays out. If I'm going to take Penn State, I would hope that the line moves up a little bit. Plus, the other thing is I want to wait to see who's playing in these games and who's not. You don't have to worry about that with the playoffs. It's all hands on deck. But these bowl games, you start seeing names of kids that are going to dip out and head to the NFL, or they're just not going to play because they're a little banged up and they don't want to risk injury.
Correct. I agree with you. It's to the point in college where you got to wait and see for even the New Year's bowl games that don't consist of the playoffs. Kids are going to hold out of that. It might change a little bit if, the money's good enough for their NIL deals they're getting. But at the end of the day, it's been the recent trend the past decade or so. The closer we get to draft day, the more and more of these high-profile type names hold out of bowl games.
As far as the SEC goes, and I'll get more into this later, but some other SEC matchups that are pretty interesting. Florida, Oregon State, that game is on December 17th. Of course, Florida's now without their quarterback. And then you've got the Missouri Tigers playing in the Gasparilla Bowl. That's on Friday, December 23rd. Arkansas is playing on the 28th against Kansas. Texas Tech and Ole Miss as well on the 28th. And then Notre Dame, South Carolina right here in Jacksonville should be a good one. And Tennessee Clemson, one of the better bowl matchups. I'm hoping most of the kids play 8 o'clock Eastern, and that game is also on the 30th. And then on that New Year's Eve, when we have the doubleheader of the college football playoffs earlier in the day, you've got Alabama, Kansas State, and also Iowa, Kentucky. They're going to play at the same time. ABC and ESPN, essentially the same company. But I think the reason why they're doing this because they want all eyes on the 4 o'clock kickoff in the semifinals, and they don't want anything to intrude that. And the Iowa-Kentucky game, by the way, is in Nashville. So you got some good games coming up. We've got to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk the National Football League and who is the favorite to head to the Super Bowl as we are finishing up week number 13.
Are you okay, pal?
I had a rough day on the job.
Are you going home now?
I was about to.
Well then, you just fulfilled the first rule of law enforcement. Make sure when your shift is over, you go home alive.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Make contact. A collective psychosis is sweeping the nation. We're in the thick of the haze craze, and Elysian is introducing an altered state of IPA. Contact Haze is a tangled chemistry of mild haze, low bitterness, and an explosion of hop aroma. This hazy IPA bursts with notes of bright raspberry, currant, citrus, guava, and passion fruit. Available in 6-pack cans in stores. Make contact.
If we actually enjoyed our New Year's resolutions, we'd all have 6-packs, money in our saving accounts, and we'd know how to play the piano. I have to tell you about the one resolution I actually enjoy. It's Built Bar. It's delicious. Oh, yeah, it's healthy, too. They're low-cal, low-sugar, high-protein, high-fiber, great for the keto diet. Lose or maintain weight while indulging. Visit BuiltBar.com.
Braves Country, weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, 99.1 FM The Key, your first choice for Southern sports talk.
Hey, folks, this is Mark White with The Mark White Show, and you can tune into The Mark White Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on Rock 99, WQEE The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM The Key, home of Braves Country. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country.
Can you keep a secret? Of course I can. I lost all our money today betting on sports. Damn. I know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Can I tell you a secret? Sure, yeah. I lied. I can't keep secrets. Wait, what?
Armchair.
He's been buying beer since August, running hot, running cold. And 30 friends are on alert, that's all the dental hold. Cause he's the
welcome back here.
Quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks.
Braves Country.
American man.
Armchair Quarterback Radio. We're on WQEE 3 to 5 weekdays, and then also we're streaming everywhere. We got YouTube, we got Facebook, we've got Twitter. What's the other one? Twitch. Brand new to Twitch. Most of those are something to the effect of Braves Country HD. YouTube at this point right now is just a Braves Country. But we'll be going here weekdays 3 to 5. We've also got some broadcasts coming up. December 15th, Thursday night football. Tones and I will be bringing you the Thursday night game of the week. And for some reason, it's slipping my mind who that is. I know it's a dud this week. That's why we decided to wait till next week. I'll have to look it up here in a second. But the we'll have it going on all these outlets. So if you don't catch us on the radio, you can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. See what game that is. That is 49ers Seahawks. I knew it was a good one. And
yep, I was just trying to trace it down too. That's exactly right. That one's going to be a lot of fun.
And there's a couple of others that we may be bringing to. We're checking our calendar, but there's a couple really important Thursday night football games that are coming up, Tones. And the first one is that following week, Jaguars Jets. That's going to be a big game for the Jets because they've got to play Buffalo this week, and if they drop that game, that game's going to be imperative to win for them to head towards the playoffs.
Yeah, and they hung pretty tough with the Vikings yesterday. Tough loss for them without Mike White as well. So they need to rebound here in the coming weeks, and we'll see if they could do just that. And the Jaguars aren't no slouch. I know yesterday they were, but usually they come to play under Doug Peterson, so we'll see.
And then the other one is the last Thursday night of the game. Thursday night game of the year. This one's going to be a huge game. Cowboys going to Nashville to take on the Titans. So a lot of big football games that we plan on bringing you here in Armchair Quarterback Radio on all these outlets that you're hearing us on right now. Programming note: this coming Saturday on our Armchair Quarterbacks Braves Country on the on all from YouTube to Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, we're gonna have the Army Navy game. Tones, we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but you're more than welcome if you can make it. 3:00 Eastern, that game will be Army Navy, and doing that game every year because it's really cool to see the responses that we get and folks that are overseas that have no other way of being able to hear the game. So
I'd like to be able to make that one, and I think I should. Last year I was in Tampa, so unfortunately wasn't able to. But this year I don't think that should be a problem. That'd be awesome, and that game's a lot of fun year in and year out. Gives the people a chance to listen to it who may not be able to have some radio or television connection for that one.
Yeah, and this year's really interesting one. It's a pick'em. I checked the line on it's a pick'em. The over-under is 33. I think the over is going to blast through that roof. 33. Both of those teams have very difficult offenses, and I know last year was a low-scoring game. It was also really bad weather. The weather's not supposed to be quite as bad as of right now. I checked this morning. That might have changed, but Army has scored quite a bit of points here recently, and Navy's kind of gotten into a groove. Both of them, this is essentially both of their bowl games because both of them have losing records, so they're going to be out there trying to play to move on. But let's get back to the National Football League, as a lot of stuff happened yesterday, and I think certain teams, this is the time of year we start seeing teams kind of separate themselves, so to speak, right?
Yep, this is big boy football season as we move through November into December. This is who separates themselves from contenders and pretenders, who helps themselves set up for January, who puts themselves back. So it's game on now in the National Football League. Nothing like it.
Some of the bigger games that took place yesterday that have big time implications. Philadelphia blew the Titans out, and I was a little concerned that might happen. Once it got to a certain point, it was like, man, just hold on for dear life. Philly's really potent team, and they let them get a big lead, and the Titans are not built for the comeback. They're just not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The other game that was a blowout that I thought, had a chance to be much better was 49ers Dolphins. But the 49ers, though they get the W, they lose Jimmy G for the year, and that's huge.
Yeah, and, reports are now Baker Mayfield released today, so could he be a move for the 49ers? That's interesting. I know that they're looking into a guy like Josh Johnson, but at this point in the year, not a lot of veteran choices out there. Their best bet, as weird as it sounds, would probably be a Baker Mayfield type at this point.
I think the best bet is just to roll with Brock Purdy. Sign
Could be.
someone else off the street to back him up and let's go.
And I know they liked Brock Purdy a lot this preseason when he was practicing as their backup because Jimmy Garoppolo was missing all that time because they didn't know if he'd be in or out of the team. So Purdy does have experience in high snaps from the preseason, now from yesterday as well.
Some other games. Well, first of all, the Falcons dropped another one that they should have probably won, 19-16. And I think, I'm at the point now where I'm like, Arthur Smith, can we put Ritter in the game? What are we doing here with Mariota? He is who we thought he was. 13 of 24, 160 yards, 167 yards, a touchdown, a pick. He's not absolutely terrible, but he's also not going to win you a lot of ball games. It's the reason why the Titans moved on from him. And the Titans had Derrick Henry at the time. You got to be able to open up the offense a little bit. Drake London did have a decent day, but all in all, the offense is just stagnant. The defense is actually playing pretty decently here recently. But when you hold the opposing team to 19 points, you should have a pretty good chance of winning at least one of those, and they've dropped both of them the last 2 weeks.
And you just can't do that. Just can't do that in the National Football League. You don't get away with things like that at the end of the day. So,
and a Pittsburgh team who has struggled to run the ball, they rushed for 154 yards yesterday. And once again, I'll tell you what, Pickett's really looking like that he's starting to mature into someone that can be the heir apparent. Look, he was a first-round draft pick, but that doesn't always mean anything. But I think this kid's got it.
And his legs look nice too. That's another element of his game. Not only could he show some accuracy in passing, but his running has been pretty well to this point as well. And this is a Steelers team that keeps getting a little healthier week by week. Not that they're going to make a playoff run by any means, but they're playing a lot better brand of football of late. Mike Tomlin always has his dogs in the hunt. Wouldn't be shocked if the Steelers finish around 8 or 9 wins.
I think we're looking at a pretty good chance. Oh, by the way, Colts, Cowboys. So Jeff Saturday got embarrassed on Sunday Night Football. He got outscored 33-0 in the fourth quarter. That's like Alabama playing Alabama A&M kind of domination.
And it's crazy because the Colts were in the game for the entirety of the first 3 quarters, so they obviously showed up to play yesterday, and then something happened in the fourth quarter where the wheels just came off completely.
Right?
Yeah, Matt Ryan, I love the guy and what he's done in his career, but he just doesn't have it anymore, and it's evident. And the Colts' weapons too. All you got to do is double team a guy like
Pittman. In the offseason when they said, "Oh, Matt Ryan's coming to the Colts. Look out. They're going to be a favorite to win that division." Like, are you nuts? Matt Ryan didn't have it 3 years ago. He started the decline 3 years ago, and he dang sure didn't have it. He had lost his fastball by last year.
And, at least the Colts are able to get out of the one thing and the Matt Ryan thing now. What the Colts should do, I hope they do, they draft the first-round quarterback next year. You keep Ryan around because they owe him for one more year. You kind of have him teach that quarterback a thing or two, and you hand off the torch, whether it's by week 1, the rookie starting in Indianapolis, or by week 8 or 9, it takes to that. But you could have a decent quarterback room if you draft a rookie round 1. You keep the veterans like Ryan and Ellinger around to try and help teach him. That'd be the smartest thing the Colts could do instead of trying to get another veteran quarterback, in my opinion.
You've got, with all the quarterbacks coming out, and you're the Colts, it's time to use your first-round draft pick on a quarterback.
No brainer.
Wait a minute. Do they have a first-round draft pick? It seems like they're always trading things away.
They do have one this year. They did not have one last year or the year before because they got the DeForest Buckner deal. So, that cost him one. But now they do have one this year.
Yeah, so they're going to go into this offseason, obviously have to cut bait with with Ryan. And look, a kid like Anthony Richardson that's coming out in the draft, that's going to be. Here's the problem: if you still have Jeff Saturday as your coach, he's not going to develop anybody. The guy, I mean, the guy didn't even. The guy's making little uncommon mistakes of things that he should know, but he doesn't know because he's never been a head coach in the NFL. And it's little things, like they mentioned it. Was it last night on the telecast where they mentioned making sure that you had someone to come get the red flag from you with 2 minutes left, so that you don't accidentally throw that flag, right? And get a penalty called on you. I think that was last night's game. But it's little things like that that the common Joe six-pack like you and I don't think about, right? But there's a reason why these guys normally aren't hired off the streets as a head coach. I know it happens in baseball, but that's been happening for decades. They used to have player managers. They used to have guys that were managers that were still in your starting lineup. You don't see that much anymore, but baseball's a lot different because once the game starts, there's not a whole lot of quote unquote coaching going on. Most of the coaching takes place before the game. Hey, let's look at this video, et cetera, et cetera. It's a little different today with all the ins and outs of the video. But head coach in the National Football League, he's got to make snap decisions, and he can't be learning on the job.
One thing is that's tough, I will say, in Saturday's defense, the GM to me, I mean, whether it was Frank Reich or Saturday coaching the team, didn't put the appropriate amount of weapons for the Colts. And then as well with that, you look at it, and I mean, they already fired the offensive coordinator.
You see this?
Ohio
State receiver.
Yep.
Jackson Smith.
That's huge. And what did we just talk about, Magee? We were just talking about these players not doing that because of the playoffs. Well, here's one that's doing it, and they are in the playoffs. So there you go. Some of these guys, even though they are in the playoffs and making all that money from these NIL.
Was he potentially supposed to play in that anyways, or was there not much of a chance of him playing?
He would have had to play a little banged up.
Okay.
And by a little banged up, yeah, there's a chance of him maybe not playing. So, it comes as a little surprise, but at the end of the same token, it's not like he was any guarantee to play in that one.
You see, I'm trying to get news off of that to find out, was he supposed to – I'll have to check that on the break, but trying to figure out if he was supposed to play. I know he's rated as possibly the number one receiver in the country.
When I read it on Twitter previously, right before hopping on the show quick, it sounded like he had a chance of not playing based on how the tweet wording was structured. Again, not entirely sure, but that's what it sounded like. He had a chance of not playing even before this decision.
So he will not play. I don't know how to pronounce his the second part of his last name. Is it Nigba? I know it's Jackson Smith, and that's what I've always called him, or JSN. But anyways,
we'll go with JSN.
Top receiver in the most likely top receiver in this year's 2023 draft, or at least that's what I've heard. Now I'm seeing here that Dane Brugler of the Athletic is projecting him as the number 29th pick overall to the Minnesota Vikings. How many times is the Minnesota Vikings going to draft a receiver?
Not enough.
I'll tell you what, after yesterday's game, and remember that was the pick that they traded back with the Jets. I bet the Vikings wish they would have kept that pick and got them some Garrett Wilson.
He looks really good. He looks incredible this year, and so is Chris Olave from Ohio State as well. And now you have JSN projected first-round pick. You have Marvin
out of Ohio State that you can trust. It's the receivers.
Correct. Harrison Jr. is there as well. So Ohio State, a little hotbed for wide receivers, especially of late. I love seeing their wide receivers in the NFL produce how they do. They're incredible.
Okay, we have got to take a really quick break because we're coming up at the top of the hour, so we want to make sure that we get the ID and everything. So we'll hit a quick break, and when we come back, more football talk. Keep it locked in here on the Key and Armchair Quarterback Radio. You're listening to Braves Country. You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, the Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes 1 free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Hockey season, and that means new merch over at ourdragonsmerch.com. Get the latest designs and some of our fun new souvenirs ahead of what's sure to be a great hockey season. Celebrate another season of River Dragons hockey by getting a new look to wear on game days, or surprise the big-time sports fan in your life with a new keepsake that will make them a River Dragons fan for life. Order online right now at ourdragonsmerch.com. That's the letter R, dragonsmerch.com. We'll see you at the rink.
Catch Braves Country weekdays 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern right here on 99.1 FM The Key with Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Your first choice for Southern sports talk.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
You're a cop, huh? No, what I am, Sonny, is about 50 pounds heavier and one hell of a lot meaner, so you better straighten up your act. I don't think I like it.
Welcome back here to Braves Country on Armchair Quarterbacks Radio. Coming to you on the Key, WQEE, and then, of course, all of our platforms. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Am I forgetting? YouTube. That's the big one, YouTube. And we're here 3 to 5 Monday through Friday. And then, of course, we've got the Army-Navy game that we're going to do that we're looking forward to. And then we've got some NFL games. It might grab a college bowl or two, but I'd have to get with Tones to see what his and my schedule are like, and, you know, what games, would catch our eye. There's some duds of bowl games out there, but there are some really good ones that I'm looking forward to.
I'd say it looks this year. I don't know about you, Magee, but from the naked eye, there are obviously their duds, but for the most part, a lot more exciting or better matchups in the last couple of years, seemingly, in bowl games. I'm not sure if that's just me being biased because Penn State, Florida State, they got Notre Dame, they all got some nice bowl games, or if that's just me seeing it with my eyes, but I feel like a pretty good bowl game structure this year.
Michael's asking a question. Do you think Baker to the 49ers? Now, we were just talking about that, Michael. It wouldn't shock me, but man, it seems like he seems like he's more of a problem. And I don't know if the 49ers are going to bring that into the locker room. To me, I say you roll with Purdy and you see what kind of backup you can get. Because here's the problem with Baker. If you sign him right now, does he assume that he's going to be the starting quarterback in a couple of weeks? This team's got a chance to make a run, and I get it. Purdy's not a household name, but at one point he was a Heisman Trophy candidate with Iowa State. And he's got some talent. He's just extremely green. Here's one of the most interesting bowl matchups of the entire season, and I think it's going to go under everyone's radar. On what day is that? December 17th. So a week from Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, the Cincinnati Bearcats will play Louisville in Boston, Massachusetts in the Fenway Bowl. What makes that more interesting is that Cincinnati, who just lost their coach, Fickle, to head to Wisconsin, Louisville lost their coach to Cincinnati. So does he coach in this game? Does he coach Cincinnati? Does he coach Louisville? Does he set it out? I would assume he's going to set it out. But how about that?
I would assume he would sit it out, but talk about having your hands tied in an awkward position. I mean, that's the other thing about all these coaches playing musical chairs before the bowl games. You never know who's going to coach the team in the bowl game. Will it be the coach from last year? I forget. I think even we had Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley skip out last year, and Bob Stoops came out of retirement for one game. So sometimes you get crazy coaching situations brought amongst in these bowl games.
It's going to be wild just to, and can you imagine the conversations in the tailgates, what little bit of tailgating there will be there? I know Boston, Massachusetts in December is not the ideal spot for someone from Cincinnati or Louisville to spend their holidays, depending on the weather. But can you imagine the fans going back and forth? And look, I think he was very smart to leave. And I'll tell you why. Louisville was okay this year. They were 7-5, and Satterfield got them. When Satterfield first took over the program a few years ago, they were terrible. And then he had a pretty good year, and then he had a bad year, and then this year's kind of like the smartest part about this is he just reset the clock in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And he's probably got a better chance to succeed in Cincinnati. And he gets out of the way of a program that's kind of was probably thinking about finding a new guy if he didn't do very well next year anyways. So I think it's a brilliant move by Satterfield. I do like Satterfield. I've seen him in a lot of interviews, and he just seems like a good coach. But that's a tough place to recruit to. Now he goes to Cincinnati. Look, it's not a Big Ten school, but Cincinnati's had a lot, I'd say over the last 15 years, they've been a pretty solid FBS school. And then, of course, last year they made the playoffs.
And I think that was a good move by ex-Cincinnati coach Fickle jumping up in the world too, because he probably feels like he got the most out of that program. But at the same time, Cincinnati recovers greatly, gets a peer head coach.
Wisconsin.
What happened?
It was a brilliant move by Wisconsin to hire him away from Cincinnati.
Tremendous, I think. Tremendous. And
because you're about to have a conference that's going to have USC and UCLA. So most likely Chip Kelly, right? And as far as I can tell, Southern Cal's not making a change anytime soon, right? You got those coaches there. You've got Day. I know some Ohio State fans are down on, but my God, the guy just went 11-1. Would you relax? Harbaugh. You've got Penn State rolling. And then let's think about the fact that Matt Rule's heading there. Now you got Fickle. The Big Ten is going to be very, very loaded. And if you don't have an elite coach to bring in guys and run your program, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, by the way, quarterback Devin Leary is transferring from NC State. He's entered the transfer portal. And some folks believe that he may be heading to Missouri. We'll see what happens there. But that's interesting because Leary's looked upon as a really good quarterback.
Yeah, that's an interesting move. And nothing surprises you in the world of college football anymore with all these shakeups and all the money they could get. One last thing on these coaches, though. Even a team like Purdue in the Big Ten, who's quote-unquote not, one of the big competitors, they still play with the big boys most of the time, and they're really well coached. So when you come to the Big Ten, it's all about good coaching for the most part. Just about every Big Ten school is coached pretty damn well.
Yeah, I think they're phenomenal.
Not tremendous.
When you consider what Purdue has to work for, I think what you're realistically looking at is Purdue getting all the way to the Big Ten championship game. That's the equivalent of like a Mississippi State getting to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when they add SC and they add UCLA, let's hope that they strengthen up these divisions or just get rid of the divisions.
Yeah, because the one Big Ten division is way more superior, at least in this point in time. You have Ohio State, Michigan State, and Penn State all in the same division. So the other divisions always left. Usually it used to be Wisconsin back in the day, but now you're going to get a U of I and Iowa, Purdue that comes out of there. They also got Rutgers in there and so forth. So just kind of a battle of two conferences. One's a lot more superior than the other.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on from that and getting back to some National Football League. All right, we've been kind of teasing this and kind of getting sidetracked because all the stuff that keeps breaking. I need to quit looking at the ticker up there. Every time I turn around, there's something else changing. I forgot to mention this earlier, but I saw this morning. DJU is transferring from Clemson. And so that's interesting to see where he goes, because I think he thinks that he's not going to play next year because of the kid that came in and spelled him earlier in the year. There's a clamoring for that. So DJU won't be in the bowl game, I would assume. And so where's he going to transfer to?
That's a big thing. A couple schools, it's interesting because a guy like Spencer Rattler, who was once on top of the world, he transferred and he ended up finding a decent little landing spot for himself. So will it be the same here? Will he take a bump down perhaps in terms of schools? Will he maybe go to a program that's not as highly touted but have more success there? Not really sure, but a lot of teams will be clamoring at the bit for him and his services. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, all right, back to NFL. AFC, right now, I give you one horse that you're going to ride with. Week 13, all the way to the finish to get to the Super Bowl. Who is your favorite today to get to the Super Bowl?
If I had to pick one from the AFC today, a favorite, I'm still going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs right now, given this point in time with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and what they could do. Mahomes is showing for the most part this year that he's still incredible, given Tyreek Hill's gone even. And I know that a couple games this year they got caught up with him in Indianapolis being one of those games. Last night against a team like Cincinnati, who's they seem to go back and forth with lately since he's had their number, though. So it seems like the Chiefs right now I'd still put as a team to beat, only because the Bengals offensive line still scares me a little bit. You also consider Buffalo and Miami as well.
Joe Burrow's 3-0 his last 3 games against Pat Mahomes.
Mm-hmm. He is, and he's
Joe Cool is going to start being called Joe School because he's taking Pat Mahomes to school every time they match up.
He sure is right now. So I could see why a lot of people would say Cincinnati or Buffalo still at this point in time, but it's hard. It's hard to throw money on the table against Patrick Mahomes, even with Joe Burrow being that good against him.
I'm going to go with the Bills, mainly because they've got a couple of division games here the next 2 weeks. If they can hold on to that, and then they go to the Bears and then a big game at the Bengals and home against the Patriots. When all the dust is settled, they have 3 losses. The Bengals have 4. The Chiefs have 3. When all the dust is settled, Buffalo is going to have the tiebreaker with Kansas City. If they beat Cincy, they're going to have the tiebreaker against them, but that game is in Cincy, so that's the thing. I'm ranking it right now, Buffalo 1, Cincy 2, KC 3. Because I think KC is going to have to go on the road in the playoffs to the AFC Championship, wherever it is. And if that's the case, first of all, they're not going to have Tyreek Hill with 13 seconds left this year, right? So they're going to have to find another way to get down the field. And I think Buffalo has been gunning for that. And maybe they've gotten a little sidetracked in a few games here and there, but I still think top to bottom Buffalo. And this is all assuming Von Miller makes it back for the playoffs.
Yep, and if he makes it back, I could agree with you as well that they're the top favorite perhaps. Their defense was looking really good when he was getting after quarterback. So not a bad choice in Buffalo.
So the other question would be who's the dog you're going to ride in the NFC? Because I was all about some San Francisco 49ers until about 6 o'clock Eastern yesterday when Jimmy Garoppolo leaves the game, and now it's come out that he's got a broken foot and he's done for the year. That was my ride or die. Now that they don't have him, and I know people don't think he's the greatest quarterback, I've got to see Purdy play a few weeks before I would get behind the 49ers again. So right now I'm going with, I think I got to go with the Eagles.
Yeah, and the Eagles are obviously playing impeccable football. They looked tremendous yesterday against a really good
tiebreaker against the Vikings in a 1-game lead. They really have a 2-game lead on the Vikings.
And they looked really good yesterday against the team, really good like the Titans. So the only loss that's come for them was to a hot Commanders team who's been playing really good football of late. I too would say the Eagles right now. Hopefully, I mean, it's already week 13, so unlikely. But if the Bucs could figure out their ineptitudes and get that 4 seed, they could at least make a run to the NFC Championship. But right now, I'm going Eagles as a favorite in the NFC.
There's one team that I think could go into Philly and beat them, but that's if they get the quarterback thing figured out, and that's San Fran. Because San Fran plays that physical style football, and they've got all those weapons. But what are you going to get out of Purdy? And now this makes me want to pull for San Fran even more now, because now they're even a bigger underdog.
And I'm pretty sure as well Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. So what a cool story that would be if Purdy could string along some good games as Mr. Irrelevant in the NFL draft. You always root for those guys a little harder because everyone always says, at that point, you might as well be undrafted. So a guy like Purdy has a chance to prove him wrong.
And the thing is, you have Lamar Jackson, who is hurt himself, and they don't know how long he's going to be out. Harbaugh said, we're not talking about days. We could be talking about weeks. Do you know that this morning the Bengals were still an even to a plus 120 to win that division? They're both at 4. They've got 1 game left. It's the final game of the season. It's in Cincinnati.
Wow.
I might have put some chicken dinner on that one, man.
I don't blame you there. That seems like they're
even money. Like I would have thought with the news with Lamar Jackson and the fact that the game, I get it, that Cincinnati's got a tough schedule, but all they have to be is within a game of Baltimore to get, I guess they wouldn't get that final tiebreaker because they are 1-3 in the division, and that's going to hurt them.
Yeah, absolutely. I would take the cheddar on the Bengals at those odds right now too. Surely with the Lamar news, and the way the Ravens defenses look, you kind of like that optimism in Cincinnati right now, the way they're playing good football.
Well, and the other problem is if they do miss Lamar for, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks, their next 2 games are division games at the Steelers, and by that time at the Browns should be a better game because Deshaun Watson looked like hot garbage yesterday, but he also hadn't played in 2 years. So by that game, I would think the offense would be a little better before you have to jam out of here, because I know you're going to the game. It's Tampa Bay. It's the New Orleans Saints. It's tonight, Monday Night Football. Our own Tampa Tones will be at the ball game. I know you're going to pick your Bucks to win. Are they going to cover the spread? It's 3.5 the last time I checked.
I sure as heck hope so. I don't think I could do it. It's a game that's, justified by less than 3 points as the outcome. I'm thinking Bucks win this one by 7 as well. I got a 24-17 as Joey did. I see the Bucks playing a little better offensively today. 24 would be a breath of fresh air the way this offense has been playing lately. And I see their defense coming to play. I see their defense showing up, as Akeem Hicks and Vita Vea are both likely to play tonight, they said, which is huge news for a guy like Devin White. I see the Bucks covering barely, but I do see them covering. 24-17 victory for the Bucks, propelled by a clean play of offense and a highly, highly energized defense on Monday Night Football against their heart and soul rivals. After the Falcons lose, this is a big game for both of these teams for the NFC South.
With the Saints, for some reason, they've got Tampa's number. I do think Tampa probably gets the W. The Falcons need them to lose in the worst way. But the Falcons really needed to win yesterday to keep their playoff hopes alive. They're dwindling. Every day that they continue to not give Ritter a chance, they're dwindling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take the Bucks to win, but I don't think they're going to cover the spread. If I can get it at the 3.5, give me the Saints, barely getting them by the hook, 20-17. Bucks.
And I could see that the way this rivalry shakes out back and forth.
The over-under is 41. I think it's going to be tough to get to that, to that over.
Yeah, I got them pushing. You got the unders, so we're not liking high score and over tonight, that's for sure.
All right, brother. Well, what is your walk-off? I know you got a jam.
My walk-off is just enjoy Monday Night Football. We don't have many of these left, I believe. Only after this week we have 3, maybe 4 Monday Night Football games left at most. So as much as we love football, it's slipping away at the fingertips. College bowl season's coming. NFL playoff season's coming. A lot of our teams are going to be done here in the near future. Just enjoy it. Appreciate it as a fan. Sit in the couch and lock in, because before you know it, it'll be off season.
All right, brother. We will be right back. We will see you on Friday, right?
Yes, sir. I'll see you Friday.
And we will be right back in a flash when we come back. Going to talk some of the other bowl games and some other things going on in the National Football League.
CBS Sports Radio. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback's #1 sports station.
This is your Armchair Quarterback's Sports Flash. Big news out of Gotham. The New York Mets signed American League Cy Young winner Justin Verlander to a 2-year, $86 million deal. Verlander will be 40 years old this year, making the Mets' 2 aces atop the rotation, a combined age of 80 on opening day. Over the weekend, Jacob deGrom left the Mets for a 5-year deal with the Texas Rangers for $185. And in case you missed it, the college football playoffs are set. The Georgia Bulldogs will essentially host the Ohio State Buckeyes in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Peach Bowl, 8 p.m. Eastern on New Year's Eve. The other semifinal game will be TCU in Michigan. That game is set for 4 p.m. Eastern and will be played out in Glendale, Arizona, also the site of this year's Super Bowl. Michigan is a 9-point favorite on the early line. The Georgia Bulldogs are 6.5. Other bowl bids in the Southeastern Conference. On December 17th, the Florida Gators at 6-6 will take on the number 14 Oregon State Beavers in Las Vegas in the Las Vegas Bowl. On Friday, December 23rd, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, Wake Forest and Missouri square off. And on Wednesday, December 28th, you've got a doubleheader of SEC play. Kansas against Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl at 5:30, and at 9 o'clock it'll be Texas Tech and Ole Miss in the Texas Bowl. Friday, December 30th, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish come to Jacksonville, Florida in the Tax Slayer Bowl to face number 19 South Carolina. That kickoff is at 3:30 Eastern. On that same night, on the 30th, the Orange Bowl will see the Tennessee Volunteers, number 6 on the land, going head-to-head with the number 7 Clemson Tigers, who won the ACC. In other games on New Year's Eve, Alabama and Kansas State, 12 Eastern, it's the All-State Sugar Bowl. And Iowa and Kentucky go head-to-head in Nashville in the Music City Bowl. The Relia Quest Bowl on January 2nd at noon Eastern will see number 22 Mississippi State against Illinois. That game is in Tampa, Florida. And in Orlando at 1 o'clock Eastern on the 2nd, number 17 LSU will try to bounce back against the 8-5 Purdue Boilermakers. Both teams were semifinalists in the SEC and Big Ten championship. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right out, one second left. What a play by Bird.
Here's good news. There's still a need for hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity professionals in the U.S. right now. And My Computer Career is training people to help meet the demand. No IT experience? No problem. Take the free career evaluation today. Start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Grants covering up to 53% of the cost are available to those who qualify. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
ACC football covered like no other here on the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Out of the shotgun, third down and about 10. Ward getting some pressure, getting more, gets it away. He's got Fryer wide open. Touchdown, Florida State. That's what Ward will do to you.
Georgia Tech 45, Nebraska 21. It's now up to the voters. They look like the number one, don't they?
All right, 6 seconds to go. Maurer throws it up for grabs. There's 5 defenders back there. Game runs out. And Clemson wins the national championship of college football. This is for the national championship for Nebraska. And for Miami, an absolutely miracle year. The dream season as they come back from a bad loss opening day to go to 11 straight wins and in all probability when the votes are in, a first ever national championship for the Hurricane.
Take the scenic route in the new Hyundai Santa Fe, the family SUV with available H-Track all-wheel drive to help you travel way off the beaten path. Find new adventures together in the Hyundai Santa Fe.
Welcome back to Braves Country. Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays 3 to 5 p.m. drive time on WQEE.
Yo, you don't even know what stupid is. It's about to get all stupid up in here.
An original melody. Why did John Lennon have to be the one to get
Welcome
shot?
back.
Something's wrong.
Taking you all the way up to the 5 o'clock hour. And it looks like Aaron Judge is about to arrive at the winter meetings on Tuesday. And you got to figure that means either tomorrow or Wednesday we would have some news on that. And though we know he's not heading to Braves country, you want to see some of these bigger names get off the board because it'll move everything else along. And Carlos Rodon supposedly has been seeking 6 years and he's been talks with, they're saying a few teams, somewhere around $30 million per year. Carlos Rodon with his injury history, I would be shocked if Anthopoulos would do that. So if he goes elsewhere, he might be going out west. Heck, the Angels might be saying, hey, we got to get some pitching around these guys. If you missed the news earlier, real quick, we'll run it down for you. Trey Turner heading to the Phillies for 11 years, $300 million. Verlander is a New York Met. Of course, at the age of 40, he only signed a 2-year deal, but still $86 million. So he got the same AAV as Verlander did last year. Last year, Verlander got 3 years, 43. Verlander, 2 years, 86. So both contracts will expire at the same time. And then, so you've got Verlander and you got Scherzer on the same team. And we don't escape the fact that the Mets always have this two-headed monster, so they're going to have it once again. But then DeGrom, he heads to Texas. And what will the AL West teams do to counter that? Because it looks like they are still – they talked about Jameson Taillon possibly going to the Mets, but the Rangers was another team that evidently they're not done yet. We know that when the Rangers are good, they're willing to spend. Wouldn't that make that division interesting if all of a sudden the Rangers got improved? Because you got the Mariners, who looked very good until they fizzled out in the playoffs. But still, the Mariners had themselves a heck of a year. And of course, you got the World Series champion Houston Astros, and now you throw Texas into the mix. And you're the Angels. Could they be the ones going after Rodon? And to me, it would make a ton of sense. And he can probably get more money from them because they're desperate to get some pitching in there. And I know they signed Anderson a few weeks ago. Tyler Anderson's not going to bring you a championship. Not by his lonesome. They need a Rodon to put in at the top of the rotation when you first of all, to get to the postseason, but then also when you get there, you would have Ohtani and you would have Rodon. And then, of course, they still have a couple other pieces. It'll be interesting to see who they bring back. They had a couple of pitchers in their rotation that actually had career years, and we'll see what happens with that. But all that's unfolding as the winter meetings are hot and heavy, taking place in San Diego until Thursday morning. Everyone will start to head out. And usually you get some big names in the winter meetings. You might even get a big trade or even two. But then after, when the meetings dissolve, then you usually get some movement, a little bit of movement for about a week or so. And then if your team has not made a deal around Christmas, you usually don't hear anything for a few weeks. And then it gets into, and then that's when the angst starts, because you hit Christmas and then New Year's, and you get in there in the first and second week of January, and the players want to be somewhere and the teams want someone. And that's when the deal's good. Because if you're going to sign to go to a new team, there's a lot of things that go on in the background that we don't see as fans, just from the personal life, that they have to find somewhere to live, et cetera, schools for the kids, et cetera. So most of these guys like to have it done heading into, I know last year was different because of the holdout or lockout, excuse me. But most of them like to have their destination set around Christmas time. And I still think Major League Baseball needs to do something to figure it out, to get the free agency. Either A, they do what the National Football League does, and you pause free agency, right? You give it a couple of months, and you pause free agency. And then when you hit January leading into the regular season, you would have just a slew of moves and getting people fired up for their teams. That's one way to go, and that's the one that I like the most. We'll call it January 2nd. Open it back up, right? Maybe give them a week or so after the season ends, and then if nothing gets done at that point, have kind of a lull. And you would still have the winter meetings. You could still make trades, but then that could get the teams to focus on that if they wanted to make any kind of deals and get them set for free agency. Because the way the slow trickle is happening with Major League Baseball free agency, it's hard for the fans to just get excited. Unless you're a diehard fan like me who's constantly checking it, it's really hard to get excited, because I get excited when I start reading all the different rumors that are coming around. Well, this team, I want that. And if that team signs this guy, then where does this guy go? And then what's my team going to do? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So but this is where we are here now in Major League Baseball. Is we're in the thick of the winter meetings. A lot of things usually happen. I expect Judge to get signed. And I'd be a little shocked within the next calendar week that Dansby Swanson isn't signed, that Xander Bogaerts isn't signed. You usually don't like being that one or two big names left heading into January. They're like, well, this guy's still out on the market. You don't really like that because it's almost like a game of musical chairs. You start looking around, you're like, well, there's nowhere for me to go. And so as a Braves fan, I hope they bring Dansby back. But the longer he's not there, the more I get concerned that they're not going to be able to bring him back. All right, we move on from that and get into some football. If anything else breaks, we'll let you know. But as of right now, it's just the Trey Turner to Philly, obviously DeGrom to Texas, and Verlander to the Mets are the big stories of the day. Okay, let's get into National Football League. And you start looking at the standings and you start looking at some of the things the teams are going to have to start looking come playoff time. And the playoff picture is starting to crystallize. The first thing that I see when you look at the AFC race and you've got Buffalo and Kansas City at the top at 9-3, Buffalo's got the tiebreaker because of the W against Kansas City. Right below that, you've got Baltimore in third and Tennessee in fourth. And I don't think Tennessee's going to be able to get out of the fourth spot. And the reason why I say that is I do believe the Bengals are going to win the Central, or excuse me, the North. Man, I'm dating myself. The AFC North. They're even with Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson's injured. And I know Baltimore has played some good football without Lamar Jackson in the past, but anytime you lose your star quarterback for extended amount of time, they're saying he's basically week to week. That usually tells you he's probably gone for a couple of weeks, bare minimum. And if Cincinnati takes over, Cincinnati's going to have the tiebreaker against the Titans. So I think you're going to get Cincinnati as the 3. Maybe even Cincinnati, if they could get on a roll, they could grab the 1. Because they play Buffalo. They've already beat Kansas City. That would be tiebreaker right there, right? And they've beaten Tennessee. Cincinnati could get into that mix. And, of course, everybody wants that number 1 seed because it's so important nowadays because it's the only one that gets the bye. But let's just say for argument's sake, Cincinnati slides into the 3 and Baltimore hangs around and finds a way to make the playoffs. I think there's a very good chance that the 5 seed, assuming Tua is okay, I think he will be okay. I think it's going to be Miami. And Tua going to Nashville is going to be a problem for the Titans secondary. Now, the Dolphins can be shredded on the ground, but that's going to be a problem. The Jets, on the other hand, they're sitting there clinging to the 7 seed. Pats are right behind them at 6-6. So are the Chargers. I think the Chargers are toast. They lost again. The Chargers, looking at their schedule, they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. And losing to the Raiders is not going to help you make the playoffs. They're at home against the Dolphins this coming Sunday night. Then they're at home against the Titans. They're at the Colts, at home against the Rams, and at the Broncos. playing the Titans doesn't really help them as far as catching anyone because the Titans are going to win their division in all likelihood. They're in a terrible division. They're 7-5. 9-7 is probably going to win that division. Or, excuse me, 9-8. But the Chargers, I'm calling it right now. I think the Jets are going to get that final spot. I'm not sold on the Patriots. I know Belichick is still Belichick. But Belichick and the Patriots, once again, they face the Bills, and they do not look like a playoff team. Remember last year when they got blown out? And they've got to finish the season at Buffalo. Buffalo might have everything wrapped up. And that may not be a thing. But as of right now, I can't put them in the plus. So I think the Jets are going to find a way to get in. The Jets have a tough game at Buffalo this weekend, but then after that, their schedule eases up a little bit. They're at home against the Lions, home against the Jaguars. They do have to go out to Seattle, and they finish it at home on the road against the Dolphins. But they can win either one of those games, and the Dolphins may not be playing for anything at that point. The Dolphins may be locked into the 5 seed at that point. So they may be resting their guys. I think the Jets have an excellent chance, and Mike White is playing good football. They didn't get it done yesterday on the road, and there were some plays that could have been made. But all in all, you got to like what you saw yesterday out of Mike White. Leaps and bounds better than what they had coming with Zach Wilson. And White yesterday, by the way, 369 yards passing. He did have the 2 interceptions, but they just had to find a way to get in the end zone. The biggest problem with the Jets yesterday is that they settled for 5 field goals. That was the biggest problem with the Jets yesterday. They moved the ball. Garrett Wilson is going to be a star. Zonovan Knight looks like that he's the real deal. I know they lost Breece Hall, but that Jets offensive line is making holes, and James Robinson just doesn't have it anymore. Doesn't have that burst, it doesn't seem. Or maybe he's not picking up the offense, but he does not look nearly as explosive as Zonovan Knight does coming out of that backfield. So right now, I think the Jets are going to be the team that gets that final slot, and we're going to see Jets make the playoffs. We're going to see the Dolphins make the playoffs, and then whoever doesn't win the North between the Ravens and the Bengals, they'll get the other wild card. We'll hit the NFC here after the break, and we'll also come back and talk about some bowl games in the South. There are some good matchups in the Southeastern Conference and in the ACC. Keep it locked in here on The Key in Armchair Quarterbacks Radio.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see your practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state.
Hey, sports fans. Weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. That's Braves Country with Mac Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
It's time to live, laugh, and create memories again with MSC Cruises. Join us on some of the world's most modern and innovative ships. Discover again at our new private island, Ocean Key MSC Marine Reserve, named Best New Cruise Destination. Cruise the Caribbean and Bahamas from Miami or Port Canaveral. Book now with free balcony upgrades and flexible booking changes. Call your travel advisor or visit msccruises.com. Restrictions apply. MSC Cruises, a world of discovery.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's the Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country.
Hi, I'm going to be your waitress because my mother drank. We need a sec? Feeling kind of generous. Take two.
Broken pretzels in the rug. The beer cans could be worse. She'll clean it up tomorrow and dread September 1st when once again, well, the season's finally here and the players.
Welcome back here to Braves Country on Armchair Quarterback Radio. I'm Magee taking you 3 to 5 weekdays here. And I still got a lot more to get into before we hit the top of the hour, where Farrell Coast to Coast will be coming your way. So looking at the NFC really quick, and then I want to jump into these bowl games. We'll do more of this tomorrow, but the bowl games, and there are some interesting odds or interesting matchups. When you look at the NFC, Eagles, Vikings, they're in. I would be shocked if the 49ers fell apart even after losing Jimmy G. They're 8-4. They've got a 1-game lead against Seattle. They do have to play them head-to-head. That game is the 15th, so it's a week from Thursday. Their next game's at home against the Bucks. I give them an edge to win that game because the Bucks are going to be playing on a Monday night game tonight. It's going to be a physical division game, and then they're going to have to go all the way out to the West Coast on a short week. It'll be interesting to see what that line is because I think a lot of folks are going to be out there thinking, well, especially if the Bucks look good tonight, there will be an overreaction by the betting public to think Tom Brady can go into San Francisco and win, and I don't think they will. I think the Bucks are much more, or the Niners are much more physical, and it's going to be a difficult win because you're not going to have Jimmy G. But that team will be able to win games without him. After that, they're at Seattle. They're home against the Commanders. At the Raiders, home against the Cardinals. Very, very doable schedule, even with the banged-up 49er team. So I think they're in. So let's just assume the three of them are in. And let's go ahead and assume that the Bucks are going to find a way to win that division. I don't think it's going to be easy, but they don't have a lot of competition. The Falcons lost again yesterday. If there was one team that I thought had a fighting chance to catch them, it was the Falcons. So outside of that, what you're looking at is the big thing, which is the NFC wild card. Cowboys are going to get the wild card, and they're probably going to be the 5 seed. And it's probably going to set up a Cowboy versus Tom Brady first round, and won't that be fun? And then the 6-7 seed, and that's going to be the interesting one because I think Seattle will find a way in. Giants have a tough schedule, but the Giants have to find a way to only beat out the Commanders because I don't believe the Lions can get hot enough to make up. The Lions are 5-7. The Giants are 7-4-1. The Commanders are 7-5-1. Now, the biggest thing that I see that is a disadvantage for the Giants is they just tied Washington. They really needed to win that game because they will face each other again, not this coming week, but the following week on Sunday Night Football. And Washington is going to get a week off. In the middle of this 3-game stretch, the Giants played a very hard-fought overtime game with the Commanders, and now they have to play the Eagles. Now, it's in New York, so I give them a little better chance of pulling off the upset. But they're going to have to finish that off with at the Commanders, which is going to be a tough game That game has been flexed to Sunday night. And then they're going to play a short week on the road in Minnesota. They're going to play that game on Christmas Eve. They'll finish off with the Colts and then at the Eagles. Those two games are very winnable because the Eagles are going to have everything locked up. I don't know why you would start anybody that final week if you're the Eagles. Unless for some reason they have not locked down the home field advantage through the playoffs, but I do think they will. The Colts game should find a way to win that game. So if they can beat the Commanders and they can beat the Colts and the Eagles, they'll find a way into the playoffs. If they can win just two of those games, I think there's a chance of them finding their way into the playoffs. Because the one team that they have to worry about is the Commanders. And because it's wild card, it's the tiebreaker won't be division, it'll be conference. We'll get into that here in 1 second. But the Niners, after they play the Giants after their bye week here, they're going to be at San Francisco. That's going to be a tough game. They'll probably lose that. They're going to be at home against the Browns. The Browns should be playing better football by then, I would think. And then the Cowboys. And then the Cowboys will probably rest their guys in the second half. But that's only if they have the 4 seed locked up, which I think they probably will. So Washington's got a good chance of winning that game. So that's why it's so imperative for the Giants to beat the Commanders, because that game could realistically decide it all. If you look at the conference standings right now, Giants are 3-4-1, Commanders are 4-4-1. So it's all going to come down to that. All right, now to the bowl games. And we'll do much more of this tomorrow, but I did want to hit up the SEC games and the ACC games. We've already chatted about the SEC a little bit, so let me hit the ACC real quick, and then we'll get back to the SEC. Cincinnati-Louisville is an intriguing game. That line is at 2.5 right now. Over-under is 45. That game is being played in just under 2 weeks, December 17th. It's a Saturday. Friday the 23rd, you've got Wake Forest and Missouri. And that is the Gasparilla Bowl being played in Tampa. That line is 3. Wake Forest is a 3-point favorite. It'll be interesting to see if that stays, because there's rumors about some Wake guys transferring. So we'll see what happens there. So if you like it one way or the other, you better jump on it. Central Florida, they're a 2.5-point favorite against Duke in Annapolis, Maryland, in the Military Bowl. I think UCF is going to boat race Duke. So that's an interesting one. Oregon is a 10.5-point favorite in the Holiday Bowl out in San Diego against North Carolina. The over-under is 73.5. I'd be really interested in that over-under to see where it sits closer to kickoff, because those are two defenses that they like to play the Ole defense, and you've got pretty good quarterback play. You've got May, who phenomenal. He'll probably be a Heisman Trophy front runner next year. And then, of course, you got Nix, the kid that transferred from Auburn. He's had a phenomenal year. Thursday, the 29th, in Orlando, Oklahoma and Florida State. Normally, that would be a big deal 10 years ago. But Oklahoma's fallen on some sad times. Now, Florida State has actually played pretty well down the stretch. And I think I would think most of their kids are going to play, but with most of these bowl games, I caution everyone to say, find out who's playing and who's not playing in that bowl game before you start taking lines one way or the other. Because will a kid like Verse play on the FSU line? He's projected to be a pretty high draft pick. It's stuff like that. So if you see someone declare themselves eligible for the draft, that means they're not going to play in their bowl game. So You got to keep all that in mind. Oklahoma has just failed to play good football, but the game's in Orlando, and it's a good feather in your cap if you're a Seminole fan who's been watching Florida State have some bad years to be able to beat Oklahoma in a bowl game to finish off a season that saw you beat Miami, saw you beat Florida, saw you lose very close games. All three of your games, you lost by one possession to Clemson, to Wake, and to NC State. The NC State one, I think, bothers Florida State fans more than anything. They had that game won. They dominated the first half and then just fell apart, couldn't get anything going in the second half. And then on the 30th, Friday the 30th, by the way, Syracuse, Minnesota is on that same day as the on the 29th. That's a 2:00 kickoff. That's one of those random games you'll see in the middle of the day. You're like, what? And it's Syracuse, but they're playing in the Pinstripe Bowl, so they should bring a crowd. They're playing Minnesota. Friday the 30th, you've got Pittsburgh, UCLA. That should be a pretty fun one. UCLA a 5-point favorite, and that seems about right. Tennessee, Clemson. It'll be interesting to see who plays and who doesn't play in that one. But DJU's transferring, so we already know he's not playing. And how many Tennessee kids declare, they've got receivers that are ready to go, et cetera, et cetera. That game is at 8:00, and it's going to be on December 30th, a Friday night, the Orange Bowl. That should be a fun one. I hope most of these kids play because it makes it so fun. But I also understand why a lot of them don't play. Now, maybe some of this starts getting tied to NIL deals, and maybe more of them will play, but we'll see what happens there. Maryland, NC State, that's a noon kickoff on December 30th. So that's a part of a triple header in the ACC. Maryland, NC State, and Maryland's a 1.5-point favorite right now. With NC State losing their quarterback, I'd be jumping all over Maryland right now. Southeastern Conference real quick before we have to jam out of here. And we'll go more into detail with these tomorrow. But Gators are playing Oregon State. Oregon State's now at 9. It was 8.5. It's now 9.5 today. I'm sure that had something to do with Anthony Richardson declaring for the draft. We talked about Wake and Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, and Texas Tech Ole Miss. Those games are on the 28th. Notre Dame, South Carolina. That should be a fun one. The Fighting Irish are a 4.5-point favorite. They've played good football down the stretch, but South Carolina's one of the hottest teams in the Southeastern Conference. So they're going to be going head-to-head. That's a mid-afternoon. It's a 3:30 kickoff, December 30th in Jacksonville. And then, of course, we just talked about Tennessee, Clemson, Kansas State, Alabama. That is one of my favorite ones, the Sugar Bowl. It's just so weird to see the Sugar Bowl being played at noon. I don't care that it's on a Saturday. It's at noon. It's a weird one. And, of course, Ohio State, Georgia. I still think Georgia, even laying the 6.5, I still think it's a good play. If Michigan thought, if Ohio State thought they got ran through by Michigan and got out physicaled by Michigan, wait till they face the Georgia Bulldogs, because that team's going to punch you in the mouth and keep punching. Stroud better come to play. We got to take off out of here. We will be back tomorrow, 3 to 5, and we'll be talking some more football. Joey will be with us, and I'm sure there's going to be more things breaking in Major League Baseball. Hopefully the Braves get themselves a shortstop or a starting pitcher by then. For all the guys and gals behind Armchair Quarterbacks Radio, this is Braves Country, and Mac McGee. We'll see you mañana.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks on 99.1 FM WQEE, The Key in Newnan, Georgia, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country comes your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Please follow, like, and subscribe today. Armchair Quarterback Radio, your first choice for Southern sports.
Something of the 5th of September. Something of the 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember. Something of the 5th. Gonna get another cigarette, please. Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes 1 free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Hey, sports fans, The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Magee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.